Okay. We are in Psalm 70. We're in Psalm 79. And it continues a lot of the themes, I would say, of the previous psalm in a much more compact way. Um, and a much more compact way. And when I say compact, I mean poetically compact way. In addition to the fact that it's also much shorter, it it is a strange psalm in that it seems to deal directly with the destruction of Jerusalem. And you say, well, how is that possible? Right? King David lived before the temple in Jerusalem was even built. How is he talking about the destruction? There's lots of different explanations, but probably the simplest explanation is that the book of Psalms is a collection of poems um, in the style of King David, um, and that there are Psalms from other authors, and this is one of the ones which clearly speaks about events which had not happened yet, um, but speaks about them beautifully, and and it also, I think, just as an introduction, I think introduces us to um, the kind of emotional soup that that goes around destruction and around feelings of guilt mingled with feelings of anger. It's a very, very human. It's a very, very human psalm. Well, in case we'll talk about it as we go through. Nathan, could you please give us a read through? Would that be possible?
Where are we at right now? What's Psalm
79.
90?
Yeah.
Oh,
Seven-
79.
79.
Okay, thank you. I can get, I'm in the Lair house and there's no one immediately around me, but
Okay.
I will read what I can. Okay, so
Okay.
it's Mizmor Asaf.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. מזמור לאסף, אלוהים, באו גויים בנחלתך, טימאו את היכל קודשך, שמו את ירושלים לאיים, נתנו את נבלת עבדיך, מאכל לעוף השמיים, בשר חסידיך, וחייתו הארץ, שפכו דמם, כמים סביבות ירושלים. היינו חרפה לשכנינו, לעג וקלס לסביבותינו. אמר אדוני תענף לנצח, תפאר כמו אש, קהילתך, שפוך חמתך אל הגויים, אשר לא ידעוך, ועל ממלכות אשר בשמך לא קראו. כי אכל את יעקב, את נביאו השמו, אל תזכור לה עוונות ראשונים. ההר קדמו לרחמך, כי גדלנו מאוד. עוזרנו אלוהי ישענו, על דבר כבוד שמך, ציוונו בכפר אחתותינו, למען שמך, למה יאמרו בגויים, איה אלוהיהם, ודע בגויים, בעינינו נקמת דם עבדיך השפוך, תבוא לפניך, כת אסיר, בגודל זרועך, פוטר בני תמותה, והשב לשכנינו שבעתיים אל חיקם, חרפתם אשר חרפוך אדוני, ואנחנו עמך, רצון מרעיתך, נודה לך לעולם, לדור ודור נספר תהילתך.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Nathan. Okay. Let's let's take a look at it. First of all, it begins Mizmor La Asaf, which already tells us that this is attributed to the poet Asaph. Um, and again, we don't know who Asaph was. Some people say he was a contemporary of King David. Some people say he's later. Obviously, the content of this psalm would indicate that he was later. Elohim ba'u goyim b'nachatecha. Um, God, the nations have entered into your inheritance. They've come into your inheritance. V'timu et heichal kodshecha, and they desecrated. They made impure. Uh, ti, uh, they they made impure your holy sanctuary. So this would seem to be referring to Nachalatecha, your inheritance would refer to the Holy Temple Mount, and then the Heichal Kodshecha, the holy sanctuary, to the temple itself, and Samuat Yerushalayim Le'iyim, and they turned Jerusalem into a heap of rubble. Nathan, for one moment there, Nathan looked like he was in jail. There was like, there was like bars. Oh, I see. It was over your head. I was thinking, poor Nathan, he's in jail in there. It's not nice. Okay. Um, so it continues. Natnu et nivlad avadecha me'achal lo'of hashamayim. They gave the corpses of your servants as food to the birds of heaven. So the images of people people have been killed, and their bodies are laying out, are being laid out outside, and birds are picking apart their bodies. Basar chasidecha, the flesh of your devout ones, of your chasidecha, really your pious of your pious ones, v'haito'ars, to the beasts of the earth. And so this is pretty clear description of the aftermath the aftermath of destruction of Jerusalem, with people being the your people uh, uh, being eaten, left out and eaten by animals, the temple destroyed, everything reduced to rubble. It's interesting that it says basar chasidecha, and honestly, the commentators have a problem with this. So the theological problem with this is that the temple was destroyed precisely because the people were not Hasidim, because the people were not pious, because the people were not good, right? It was a punishment, right? So how can we say that it's the bodies of your pious, right? When those are the people who are those people are being righteously punished by God. So one answer, I think this is Rashi's answer, kind of an interesting answer, is that once you're punished, right? Once you're punished, you're innocent, right? Once it's like a person who's gone to like a person who's served their sentence. Once you've finished with your sentence, you're now innocent, right? You're a fully rehabilitated member of society. So a person who has died for their sins, right? The person who has died for their sins is now innocent in that respect. It's a stretch, honestly. I'm just saying. I find it to be a little tiny bit of a stretch. Um, Right, there is such thing as recidivism, yes. It is a little bit of a stretch. Shafchud demam kamayim, so they spilled their blood like water. Sevivot Yerushalayim and Kover, says all around Jerusalem, and they weren't buried. There's nobody to bury them. Right? So the bodies are lying out. The bodies are lying out, and nobody is burying them. Hayinu cherpa l'shochenenu. Lishchenenu. It says, and we're an object of scorn, for our neighbors, right? The neighboring tribes, people around would just kind of look and laugh at this horrendous situation of people of the blood and whatever it was um, it was a source of embarrassment and humiliation. Um, and it was scorn and mockery to those around us, right? Everybody around us, all the different peoples and tribes were looking at this as with uh, in a way that humiliates us. And now the psalm shifts. So that was the description, right? So we describe the event. This is what happened. And now it turns to God. It says, Adma Adonai. How long, God? Right? How long is this going to go on? Adma, right? How long? It says, Adma Adonai te'enav hanetzach. It says, will you be angry forever? Tivar kamo ish kinatecha, and your rage, kinata, your avenging jealousy, right? Will it burn like a fire forever? Right. So really, is this going to go, this anger of yours? And this is an important theme. I think it's an important theme I would say, in Judaism. I think in all the Abrahamic religions is God's anger when it comes to the people when it comes to the people who oppose him. That God has this angry side. It's like, is this gonna be forever? Are you gonna be angry at us forever? Is this a fire that never goes out? That's the thing about fire. Is a fire eventually burns out. It's a good image, right? Right. Eventually a fire burns out, right? No fire goes forever except for perhaps, isn't there one isn't there one somewhere where there's like this underground fire? There's like a mine fire that never goes out somewhere. I don't know. There has to be somebody who knows about that, but there is some kind of a fire that doesn't go out.
Isn't it the nucleus of the Earth?
What?
Isn't it the nucleus of the Earth?
Well,
Where
there
it's
is that. Okay, there is that. There is the right. There is the center of the Earth, which is molten and fiery. That's true. But there actually is some fire somewhere. I think it was a mine fire. Thank you. The Darvaza gas crater, exactly. Um, which Darvaza, I think that's Farsi for door, in case. Um, but yes, that's it. The gas crater that apparently never goes up. Okay. So now it
oh,
so
then there isn't another eternal fire on the Red Square.
oh yes, there
Apparently,
is
there
that.
are
To
plenty of
remember
eternal
second World War
fires.
victims.
Yes, there are the fake eternal fires. Yes, they're
It's
the
not
fake.
fake. It's real.
It's
It's real
real. Okay,
fire.
okay, it's real fire, but I'm saying yeah. Okay. Um okay. So now it switches an approach. So first, right? First the prayer is, God, how long are you going to be angry? Is this anger going to like burn out? Is this anger going to burn out, or is it going to be go on forever? And then it switches and says, "Shafach hamatcha logogim asher lo yaducha." Pour out your anger. I'm going to add the word instead on the nations who don't know you, right? If you're angry, take it out on somebody else. It's a pretty, I have to admit this is a strange impulse. I understand it. I understand it in an emotional way, but I also think of it as a strange impulse to say, listen, why are you taking it out on us? Right? You're angry because says, why are you being so rough on us? There are whole peoples in the world who don't know you at all, right? Why are you taking it out on us? Now, the the theological reason for that is because we have a covenant with God, right? So the children of Israel have a covenant with God. They have an agreement with God, and they've broken that, right? They've broken that agreement. They broke that agreement, and that's what unleashed the anger, right? That's what unleashes the anger. It says, but here it's saying no. So why are you taking this out on us? Why are you letting everybody else off? Now, as a high school teacher, as a high school teacher, I can't tell you how many times I heard that argument, right? But so and so is doing this, right? You know what? I, why are you giving me a hard time when so and so is doing this? But yes, so he has expectations of us, right? That he doesn't necessarily have of others. I mean, that's part of what it means to be in a relationship, right? Relationships, when we're in a relationship with somebody, we have we have expectations of them that we don't necessarily have of people who we don't have a relationship with. Well, Linda, as how am I supposed to understand the concept of an angry God, especially after the Shoah? I have absolutely no idea. This is one of those areas when we talk about God's emotions, I am very much aware that I am in territory that I do not understand at all. I'm just saying that as simply as possible. It in terms of the closest I can say is that the Torah speaks in the language of man, and whatever it is that it's trying to describe is like an emotion, right? The only way that we can understand it is in terms of an emotion, but an emotion, right? An emotion is based on an emotion is there's lots of things that go into emotions, but mostly what goes into emotions is a uh, is a response that's based on goals and values, right? I mean, if if something if something if I wanted something to happen, it didn't happen, I become angry, right? I can well, if something happened, I didn't want it to happen, and I feel powerless, I'm sad. If something happened, I didn't want it to happen, and I don't feel powerless, I'm probably going to feel angry. Okay? Now that understanding of God's anger, that something happened God didn't like, and he feels the power to change it, so therefore he's angry. That just does not that just does not compute with me. This means that there's something that God is doing that I can only understand as being like that, if that makes any sense. If that makes any sense. I understand.
It makes a lot of sense to me because I was also grappling a lot with this God's anger. How can God be angry when he doesn't have any emotions? And then when he finally has an emotion, finally he feels something. What does he feel? He doesn't feel love. He doesn't feel excitement. He's mostly he gets angry or nothing, right? So how is it possible that all loving God can feel just one lousy, like the worst possible emotion? And yeah, I was listening to it and I think it resonates a lot because I think that um, it's for us to understand. So if you were like so angry that your nostrils are flaring, your nostrils are literally shaking, like that's the epitome of anger. If you were so angry, then what would you do? To explain to the human why God does what he does. Because this is what you do at this, you're taken to the limits. That's it. This is as far as you can go. Um, or maybe this is it. You've reached the limit, and this is what you would do if you were so triggered. Right, triggered is a good word.
Yeah.
So sort of to explain to communicate with the human on human terms. Obviously, God doesn't. As a parent, I know even when I'm angry at my children, I do get angry at my children. Doesn't mean that I ever stop loving them or I would ever hurt them beyond what I think they deserve or beyond what I think would benefit them. So yeah, I could say something nasty. I could, when they were younger, I could spank them. But I don't think they ever, ever, ever doubted that I love them, and if I do something, that it's because I deeply care for them. So I think we as humans should have this. We sometimes miss the point that he deeply, deeply cares, and that's why he's doing what he's doing because it's hard to see. But yeah, I think the
I,
anger is again to communicate with humans on human terms, not because God actually gets angry.
and I think that it feels to me somehow. natural, and maybe it really isn't natural. Maybe it's just kind of my cultural upbringing, is when something really bad happens to me, right? When something really bad happens to me, I do kind of go to the place of kind of like, God, are you mad at me? Like I do go to that place, and maybe that's because I kind of have internalized that theology. Um, but I sort of do go to that place. I do not go to the place of why don't you take it out on somebody else, which is an interesting, um, where it says shvol hamaska. By the way, there's so many words here for anger. Um, uh, it's just remarkable how many words for anger can appear in one. So, but here's another word, right? Shvol hamadcha. Um, Chema, like literally your it relates to the fire from before. It's related to the word cham, which means heat. So pour out your fiery anger, pour out your fiery anger, your um, on the nations that don't know you, al mamlachat asher b'shimcha lo karu, who don't call on your name, right? The ones who don't know you at all, right? On the really referring to the I hate this word pagans because it doesn't really mean that, but to all of the to all of the to all of the non-believers, right? To all the non-believers, the ones who don't know you, right? Pour it out on them. Um, it's a rough one, but it could also really just be a reference to, what about the people who actually did this? Like, is it, and this also comes, let's say that God is punishing me. Okay, let's say God forbid, really God forbid, that we do something wrong. And God punishes me, right? And punishes me through whatever means God punishes me, but through human means, right? Somebody else does something, right? The invaders come through my front door. Um, are the invaders innocent, right? Should you volunteer for this job, right? And so if God comes to you and says, "Listen, I want you to be my punishers," right? Should you volunteer for that job? I would say probably not, right? So aren't they responsible also? So he says, pour out your anger on them too, right? Okay, fine. So they punished us, right? You were punishing us and you were maybe using them to punish, but they weren't doing it because of you. They were doing it because of their own evil. They were doing it because of their own motives, because they wanted to hurt, not because they wanted to do your will. So, so why don't you take it out on them also? Ki achalat Yaakov, because they consumed Yaakov, because literally they ate Yaakov, right? One person says, because like continuing with the fire metaphor, right? Because they burned up Yaakov. Ve'et navehu Hashem, and they destroyed his dwelling. They destroyed his home, right? Which is the temple. And now it switches and becomes more personal. It says, Al tiskor lano avonot yishanim. It says, please don't recall the sins of our past. It says, Maher yikadmun rachamecha kidalon ma'od. He says, but let your mercy come very quickly before us, because now we're very dull, we're very weak, right? For Arabic speakers, dalim. It's the same word, right? People who are weak, um, right? People who are so we're poor us, right? Poor us. This is please forgive us. Yes, we did things in the past, but now we ask you for your mercy. Ezreinu oleh yishenu. It says, God of our salvation, help us. Al devar kavod shemecha, for the honor of your name. Now, in, especially for people who are entering into Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. So in the liturgy of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, of the New Year and the Day of Atonement and everything in between, this concept al davar kavod shemecha, for the honor of your name, becomes very important. Because are we asking God to forgive us for our sake, or are we asking God to forgive us for His sake? So say, well, why would God forgive you for His sake? What what benefit does God get in forgiving you? So,
Oh, I think we're being very smart asses over here, because we're saying, "Don't forgive us because we're so innocent. Or don't forgive us because we deserve it, but forgive us because you don't want to be known as the God of punishment. You want to be known as the God of kindness. So don't do it for us. Do it for yourself, God. We're being so kind in here. Oh,
right, it's a clever, right? It's
yeah."
kind of a clever argument,
It's
right?
such a setup. Oh my gosh. I mean, God, if I were God, I would get even more angry. Oh, really? I should do it for myself, not for you.
Right, and she asks, what does the honor of your name mean? So one way of understanding is like that people are going to that people should see your mercy, right? Do you want people to think that you're cruel? Do you
Right,
want people to
right,
think you're cruel? Do you want people to think that you're that you created this special relationship with the people and with a special relationship with the people, and they didn't quite make the grade, and so you smushed them. I mean, is that really what you want? Um, so but this idea of God's honor, I mean, is a very deep idea. Somebody once asked Rabbi Nachman of Breslov. They said that they're talking about the free will, and guy came to him, and he said to him, says, Rabbi, please tell me the secret to free will. So the Rebbe closes his eyes and he thinks, thinks, thinks. Finally, he says, if you want to do it, do it. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. And the guy is like, I traveled all this distance for that. He says, okay. So he says, there's one more thing. He says, you have to know what you want to do. Okay. Okay. So that's the first part. Says the second part, right? The second part is he said, so, okay. So when you're deciding between two things, is there any kind of rubric that you should use? Like, are there general principles to use to decide whether you want to do something or not? And so Rabbi Nachman gave a simple rubric. He said, if it's something which brings honor to God, then do it. If it's something which brings no honor to God or brings excessive honor to you, then don't do it. Right? Now, figuring out what brings honor to God is not so simple, right? It's not so simple. And we can disagree. We can disagree about that, right? We can disagree about that. There are, especially now at this very moment in history, people disagree about what brings honor to God. Okay. So, but he makes the argument, do it for yourself. And we use this argument all the time. Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, again, lo manenu, not for our sake, lamancha, but for you, for you, right? We use it all the time, right? We're using this constantly. So he says, for the sake of your name, save us and grant atonement for our sins, leman shemecha, for the sake of your name, right? Only so the world should see you as a God of mercy, right? Not as a God of mercy, and not as a God of anger. He says, Lam Yomnu Goyim. Why should the nations say, Aye Elohim? Why should the nations say, where is their God? Right here, you create this special relationship with these people, right? you've created this covenant with Bnei Israel. Why should everybody in the world, why should they look and they say, well, I say they had this thing with God and and they built the temple and this whole thing. And where's their God now? Right? Where'd he go? Very interesting. I think um, apropos of, I think it was the shooter in the church, the shooter in the church on one of the on one of the weapons or one of the bullets, he wrote, "Where is your God now?" Right? That was one of the things that he wrote is, "Where is your God? Where is your God now?" So that's a potent question, you know. So you don't want to say that. So instead, it says, "Yivada b'koyim le'enenu, nikmat dam avdecha shafuch." It says, "Let the nations realize." Okay, so let the nations see, nikmat, vengeance, dam avdecha shafuch, for the spilled blood of your servants. Just in case you wondered whether um, just in case you wondered whether ancient Hebrews were Middle Easterners, now you know. Okay, this is about as Middle Eastern as it gets. Um, you know, it says, why should they say, where is their God? Instead, let the blood, right? Let the blood flow, let their blood flow, and in the form of vengeance. And you know, this idea of nikama, of vengeance, um, I personally find it very difficult. I mean, I am a dyed-in-the-wool peacenik, as everybody knows. I don't really relate to it, um, but this idea of nakama, this idea of vengeance, um, is a powerful idea, particularly in Tehillim. It comes up a number of times. Um, uh, and it comes up in the prophets, even says that God desires or um, longs for vengeance, and as would be expected, and I would say probably unfortunately, that the topic has come up a lot more in the last couple of years than it ever has before. Um, but here it says, let the nations realize that vengeance comes from the spilled blood of your servants. That that they're going to get it. They're going to get it too. Tavo lefanecha and kat asir. Let the groans of those who are imprisoned reach you. Um, or people are imprisoned or trapped. Um, how does vengeance work? Well, yes, that's the problem with vengeance. So Linda asked the question, how exactly does vengeance work? What is accomplished by it? It does not change the past. That is quite right. And that's why I don't understand. I
But it
understand.
can change the future.
What?
It could change the future. It could set the tone. It could avenge or avert a lot of other calamities.
Right. So maybe,
Besides,
right. So,
God is the God. You know, we all another name of God is God of justice. So you cannot just let injustice slide, right? You have to bring it to some kind of
right.
equilibrium. So sooner or later, you know, now equanimity is a very important word in our language. So if we were unjust in the past, doesn't mean that we should perpetrate this and you know. So there is some kind of closure to justice. It's painful. It's not pleasant, but it's I
Yeah.
think it's just.
Yeah. There's, yeah. I mean, it's a complicated topic. Because one of the practical problems is that you end up with cycles of vengeance, right? When you end up with these situations where you get vengeance, and then you get vengeance on the vengeance, and you get vengeance on the vengeance, and the vengeance, right? Until finally, we keep avenging things.
Yeah, it will
That could
only
be
stop with humanity. I mean, as long as humans live, there will be vengeance and vengeance and vengeance and
right. So
remorse.
this is definitely a part of the picture. And it's interesting that in time, but also let's be realistic. There is a human response that when we're suffering, okay, that something in us wants the ones who caused us to suffer, which I'm not saying is, which I think, you know, I certainly don't think of that as being the best part of myself. Okay, if I were going to make a list of my good parts and my bad parts, I would not include that as being part of the best of me. But it is definitely part of human thinking, is that when somebody does something wrong to you, that you may want to see them hurt. It's not a good impulse necessarily, but it is definitely an impulse. And and finally, so we'll stop for today, but let me just finish the verse. Tavo lefanecha and kat esor, so used to groan, so the imprisoned should reach you. Bigoldel Zruacha Hoter Bene Timuta. He says, and with the mightiness of your arm, free those who have been condemned, I would say condemned to death, right? Condemned to death. So it's an appeal, there's an appeal to God to save us. Okay? And then of course we're going to go back to revenge in in the next verse. We'll start again right on revenge next week. We'll just go right back to revenge. Um, but it's tough. There are some very interesting things on revenge. If anybody's interested, just if you message me privately, I'll share some things with you. If you're interested. Um, uh, some of which are pretty interesting. Um, just to give you kind of an idea of where these things can go. And questions, thoughts,
So
reaction.
Linda was saying, doesn't the desire for vengeance imply a lack of trust in heavenly justice? But that's the whole point of this Tehillim. You know, it repeats time and time again. God, unleash your anger. You know, don't make us do it. You do it. It's David keeps asking, and now Asaph is asking. Unleash your anger. Do something. You know, this is clear injustice. Do something about it.
I think we also struggle. I mean, part of what I hear in this psalm that I really relate to is the struggle between realizing, okay, like yeah, maybe I deserve this. Like I understand that there are consequences for my actions and for our actions. Maybe I deserve this, but at the same time, don't they deserve something too? The people who hurt me, right? The people who executed your sentence, like they shouldn't have done that either, right?
Oh, that I hear all the time. Yeah, when you said your high school kids, I hear it all the time. What about him? What about her? The moment I
Right.
mention something to one of my kids, what about the other one? This justice is killing me. I want to, this time I want to punish just one of you. That's it. I want to be as unjust as I could possibly be. Just leave me alone. Let me punish one of you. I'll do the other one next time. You know. But yeah, I hear. I actually wanted to hear your words of wisdom. So what do you do and you cannot punish them equally? Actually, one is younger, one is older, one is boy, another one is girl. You really cannot. You cannot be. I was messaging to Linda. You cannot be equal with your kids. They're different, and you treat them differently, and you bond them differently, and you punish them differently. And I think this is how God treats us. We're not all equal to Him, and we should not be. I think
Right.
it's actually inequality when we treat everybody equally because people are different with different talents and different capabilities. And when my 16-year-old uh, leaves dirty dishes in the sink, then I think this is really unfair. And when 12-year-old does it, okay, maybe it's unfair, but it's not as bad. So they're different, and so I don't want to treat them differently. But so how do you explain to them that? You cannot you really when you punish one, then you want to leave the other one alone, and it's not unjust on your part. Maybe I should just explain this
I
the
don't
whole
know
thing
what you should
again.
say, but I know one thing you shouldn't say, and that is
Yeah,
life isn't fair. That's the one parents love that one, right?
because this is like
Life
number
isn't
one
fair. It's like,
explanation. Just deal with this.
what's the point of that? Malka's going to solve all of our problems.
I always do.
Yes.
So this is an alternative take. This one time I was and this story I'll try to keep it short, but it relates. I was walking, apparently I wasn't supposed to be there. It was like I didn't see any signs saying no trespassing, but I was, and
Trespassing.
yeah, I was trespassing, but it was water.
I do it all the time, knowing
Yeah.
and unknowingly. Both.
Well, and I saw somebody else there. They were walking. I was walking. We were near the water. This cop car comes to me, and I mean, he's like, thinks I'm on drugs or what am I doing back here? I said, I'm just enjoying the nature, not doing anything. And and I had the same reaction. I said, well, what about them? That person over there's right. They're they're walking. Why are you stopping me? And, for all I know, the other person's an undercover cop. I mean, who knows? Who knows? But in my instance, and I am an outlier, an eccentric, so maybe it's not the same. I wasn't pointing at them like I want you to punish them. It's kind of like if you imagine God like Zeus with the thunder, sending thunder at you. So well, if he sends thunder at him, I get a little break from the thunder. It was much more about self-preservation than it was about comeuppance to somebody else. It was give me a break, like look at what I'm doing good. Even the examples in the reading that, these people don't even worship you. At least like this justification. I think it really is I got good too. I'm not just bad. I'm good. Like it's less about I want to, direct your anger to someone and more about I want to direct your anger away from me.
Right. Right. I think
And
it's diversion, right?
yes,
Right. It's kind of
that's
a right. I want to divert your anger away from divert the anger away from me. Um, I please, Kaylin says she loves trespassing. Please put that on your dating profile.
I love trespassing.
I think that if
As
I think
I
that
just
should be
love it.
the crown
Well,
jewel of
whose
your dating
nature?
profile.
Why the empty lot? No one's using it. Let me enjoy it. I'll trespass any day. I'm getting
Right? Right? I mean, this place is they created for everybody equally,
You
not
just
just
give
for
it to
you.
me. You know what? I don't care. I want the
People are
yeah.
you
dangerous
know
people.
what my
Dangerous,
husband
dangerous
said.
people.
Sorry.
My
She's
husband said if you want to trespass, all you need to do is walk around with a clipboard. And then,
Oh,
oh, I'm
not a
just
skateboard. Not a skateboard.
no, no, I'm
That
just
no.
hasn't
taking
done me
notes.
well.
I'm taking notes. This is for the government.
Okay, I just learned some very important. Okay, clipboard,
No,
not
but that's really
skateboard.
helpful, actually.
Thank you.
I should be carrying
I
a
feel like I
clipboard
got
around
my
with me.
takeaway.
Love it.
I
You
wish
like to
everybody is
trespass.
beautiful.
Yeah, Mr. Weissman is a trespasser as well. I
I
know it
am definitely a
big
trespasser.
time.
Yeah, I'm a transgressive human being by nature.
Yeah,
So
invest in a good clipboard.
I'm
The
lost.
metal
Don't shoot
ones, the
me.
metal
Yeah,
ones
there's
that have an
that.
inside part that it looks like you have documents inside of it. Very official looking.
That's a very good idea. That's a very good. Actually, it's really true. I There used to be these old ladies with clipboards that used to like wander into my backyard, and I never bothered them because they were, the homeowners association, but who knows who they were? I have no idea. Now that I think about it,
Yeah,
so
who are they? Yeah,
who are they?
we don't know. You
They
are
could
them.
be CIA.
You're
I
just
don't know.
you walk right into that property.
You could also pretend to be a sheep. That's also there. Nobody
There are plenty of ways to see the
wear a
world.
sheep suit. Nobody will ever suspect.
No. Mm.
Okay, so everybody have a beautiful day. I'll be back tomorrow for Pirkei Avot, and then again on Wednesday for Duties of the Heart. And if anybody has any thoughts, you have questions, whatever, just hit me up. You know where to find me. and have a beautiful, beautiful day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lee.
Lee, you offered to share. You offered to share something. Thoughts on vengeance, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Please share.
Okay.
Thank you. This was
Thank you
Yep.
so
fun.
much.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.